you talk about the intensity of the training, and I know you're friends with Scott Stevenson, and I've talked with him for years, a great guy. You and him both incorporate a lot of intensity techniques beyond just straight sets. Yeah. And, we see some of these studies, and I know how you feel about people who quote too many studies, but we see some of these studies that they'll say, well, you always need full range of motion, or, it should always be like this long of rest or something. So why do you think there's that discrepancy between maybe what these studies say and what the guys like you and Scott and most really big guys, they're usually often using some sort of intensity techniques that.
It's a great question, man. It's a great question. And first of all, you have to look at like what Scott or I are suggesting. When I say I'd like to use high intensity techniques, I'm only going to do that probably on the last exercise, or the last set of an exercise. And I'm probably only going to do that on 2, maybe 3 exercises. So in the course of the workout, I'm probably only going to do one of those 2 to 3 times. So people will see that and they're like, oh, you can't train like that. You can't do all your workout like that. I'm well, it's not my whole workout. That's actually only 2 or 3 of the 16 sets I did.
Right.
The other sets are more straight sets. So first of all, I always tell people that, because a lot of people will see a video of something I'm doing or Scotty's doing, and they'll be like, oh, that's crazy. That's too much. You can't do all your sets like that. I'm like, no, that's not how all the sets are.
Right.
I'm just showing you the really fun, cool one.
Yeah. Kind of like you pancakes on Instagram. That's not everything you're eating, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I have 1 pancake in the morning, probably 3 times a week. So I have probably 3 pancakes during the week, but people think I'm eating plates and plates and plates of pancakes all the time. Right. The studies are interesting, but and what I do and what Scotty does is interesting. But at the end of the day, you just kind of got to find out what works for you. There's a lot of contention. I'm friends with a lot of PhDs, a lot of scientists. I just came back from presenting. Scotty and I actually just presented at the Swiss Symposium, which is the highest collection. I mean, that's the best of the best there. And you will find the best scientists there. And these guys will tell you, this is what these 6 people showed, but there's such a variance. In this study, this guy responded awesome to this many sets. This guy didn't. There's so much like personal, the principle of individuality is the main thing here. There's such a interdependency on so many different factors for people. Genetically, how they respond to a diet, how they respond to training. So it's really hard to say things in black and white. I can't sit here and in good conscience say you need to do 16 sets for your chest a week, or 10 or 20. I don't know. Maybe it's 10, maybe it's 20. I don't know. Maybe it's 16 for now and go hard, but then it's only do that for 4 weeks and then pull back on volume because your body adapts and changes. Those are the things you gotta kind of have to think about. And people will see a study and they'll think it's black and white. Okay, well, this study said that I need to do 10 reps, 10 sets or whatever. And that's what they do. And it might work great at first and then it doesn't work anymore. Okay, now what do? You want to go find another study and do that? Or how are you going to adjust? And that's the thing. This is the thing about bodybuilding. This is the thing about training, is you have to learn how to adjust. So if you don't know how to adjust, you'll never get anywhere. Because we all hit roadblocks. And no matter what you're doing, no matter how good it is or how smart it is, it eventually will quit working. And you'll have to figure out, okay, now what do I do? And there's no study that can teach you that.
Yeah.
That's where it gets real interesting. And that's where you separate kind of the elite minds to the people who don't really know what they're doing. Who are just working off a piece of paper. So I don't know, man. I think the studies are great to I look at a study as it's an answer to a series of questions, giving a certain set of circumstances, but then that leads to even more questions. And those questions lead to even more questions. So it's very fascinating. I try to follow everything as close as I can. Dr. Serrano sends me 2 or 3 studies every single day to look at.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of got my eye on the pulse of what's going on out there in the scientific community, but I never forget my roots, and that's learning how to adapt or to change your training program based on what's happening, because that's where the real magic is.